Hey, viewers and viewresses, my name is General Red Strategist, and welcome back to Sir You're Being Hunted. This is episode 210 now. My goodness, it's impossible, not impossible, but insane to think really that I'm here at my bloody 210th episode of this series and still going strong. Lovely, isn't it, everybody? So you remember, of course, in the last episode we completed the Resident Challenge, I think it was. It's been a while since my last recording session for this game, so I can't quite remember exactly. I'm pretty sure it was the Resident Challenge, wasn't it? So yes, we're back here, of course, in the land of Sir. We're not actually doing any particular challenge or anything this episode. This is actually just a sort of chill-out episode, where we're just going to, wander around, have a little bit of fun in-game, and just, have a little chat, a nice good conversation. Well, obviously it's going to be a very one-sided conversation since obviously I'm doing all the talking, but, it's just a, nice little thing that you can have playing in your background whilst you're in the house doing a bit of housework or a bit of schoolwork or a bit of university study or whatever you're doing, or if you're at work. No, actually, you wouldn't have this on at work, would you? Well, you never know, you might do. So, yes, you can just listen to me chattering away, nice and leisurely and sociably, about various topics, because there are lots of things going on in the world at present about which, we can all have a nice little conversation of sorts. But of course, the big one, obviously, by the time this video goes out, will be that the Winter Olympics has started now in South Korea, Pyeongchang, or whatever it's called. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of that. The Winter Olympics is always an interesting one. I've always been into the bobsleigh myself as a sport, 2 and 4 person. So it'll be interesting to see how, different teams do on that particular sport. Oh, man. I wonder who first had the idea of creating a very slippery track and just putting several people into what is essentially a bullet-shaped capsule and just shooting them along at great speed. In fact, actually, the one, in that kind of regard, which is always very interesting to see, are the skeleton and luge events. Because essentially, it's a person shooting down a very slippery track on what is little more than basically a tea tray, more or less. But there is one sport, of course, in the Winter Olympics, which, obviously, fans of this who are watching this video right now will probably look at me with open-mouthed horror and, spitting fury that I say this, but I've never really been a fan of the winter sport of curling, let's say. Apologies if I'm clearing my throat a lot in this episode. I'm a bit, phlegmy in the throat this morning, don't know why. Been having a little bit of a recording session, recorded 2 episodes of Alice Madness Returns, which is good, so I've managed to get those done, and obviously now I'm doing a bit of Sir as well. Thought I'd do, just a random little sort of chill out episode where I talk. But yes, curling is a sport that I don't really watch all often. It's basically a bunch of people just polishing the ground in front of a giant stone that's slipping along the floor. I mean, I'm sorry to any curling fans who are offended by that. I probably just ripped your favourite sport apart unnecessarily. But yeah, it's not my cup of tea, So yes, obviously, not all sports are for everybody, but whatever. But yes, the bobsleigh, that's always a good one to watch because good speeds they get up to. Nice little team sport. But other good sports actually to always watch in the Winter Olympics, I always find. The figure skating actually is always an interesting one to watch. I mean, that totally doesn't have anything to do with short, petite, very pretty-looking women in very short dresses. No, it totally doesn't have anything to do with that, of course. But seriously, though, on a more serious level, though, the kind of moves that they can pull off are pretty impressive. It just goes to show what you can achieve with practice. Incredible stuff. The speed skating is sometimes also a good one to watch. Because obviously that's different. They're not really dancing. They're actually racing each other. Very, very good. So yes, I guess obviously I won't be the only person out there who is, hit by Winter Olympic fever. Because I was kind of like this as well back in 2016 when the Rio Olympics were being held, and of course in 2012 when the London ones were being held, and in 2014 when the Winter Olympics were being held in Sochi. But yeah. So who else watched actually the opening ceremony for the South Korea Winter Olympics just a few days ago? By the time this video goes out, I certainly did. Of course, it was. I think it started about 8 p.m. South Korean time, whatever that is, which I think is about 8 hours ahead of UK time. But of course, over here, in the UK, that would have meant it was on about 11 to 12 a.m. So it was a very good opening ceremony. I quite liked it. it's always nice to see what different host countries are able to come up with. Very, very interesting stuff. Also, I know it barely really actually featured in the opening ceremony, but I definitely appreciated the reference to Korean naval history with the sort of CGI golden turtle ship. Do you guys remember that? It appeared very briefly in the opening ceremony. I think it was, digitally inserted in there. In fact, actually, now that I think about it, I think there was an overhead aerial shot in the footage of an actual sort of scale, real-life replica of a turtle ship floating in a harbour somewhere in South Korea, which is pretty impressive to look at. And that leads me on to actually an interesting topic, which is Korean naval history. Because you all know, if you've been sort of religiously following some of my various series, probably including Sir, but also maybe other series that I do here on my channel, you'll probably be aware, of course, that as an academic, I am really into maritime security, and I'm also really into naval history as well. But Korean naval history is a fascinating one because, well, there's a particular period where the Korean Admiral Yi Sun-sin, who you may have heard of, I don't know. Those of you who've played Age of Empires 2, The Conqueror's expansion, you'll probably have heard that name before, because there was actually a sort of short story campaign mission, wasn't there, in that game, which was based around that particular historical figure. But Admiral Yi Sun-sin, of course, is most famous in Korean history for basically being the creator of the turtle ship. And the thing about these things was, they were, I think, one of the first kind of ironclad warships of history, were they not? I'm not sure if that's true, but I'm sure I've heard it before. But yes, but essentially the design of it is really quite unique. It looks like quite a large, cumbersome ship that would be quite lumbering and slow, but by all accounts was actually fairly speedy and actually quite manoeuvrable as well. But in appearance, it's this quite large vessel, and it has basically a large sort of what looks kind of like a dragon's head mounted in the bows, rather. And these things were quite huge, these kind of dragon's heads that they built on them. But the thing is, the reason why it's called a turtle ship and not a dragon ship, though, is because the actual top deck is covered by armour plating, which I think was actually made of iron and had spikes on it to kind of repel boarders. Because the thing is, these things were built during the late 1500s, I believe, when the Korean peninsula was often being invaded by Japanese samurai. So yes, obviously it's a fascinating subject because they were built very much in response to prevailing Japanese kind of naval tactical orthodoxy at the time. Because if my understanding of sort of Japanese naval tactics of the day, fuck me, someone's ringing me. 1 second, everybody. Okay, I'm back. Now, I was talking a moment ago about Japanese naval tactical orthodoxy in the 1500s, but I just want to take a little break and talk about something else for a change in response to that telephone call that I just had. So, if you haven't done so, go and have a look at my Alice Madness Return series, and specifically, I want you to have a look at episode 7, if that's out already by the time this video gets published, which it may well be. It probably will be, actually. So yes, go and have a look at episode 7 of Alice Madness Returns, and have a listen to one of the things I talk about, because in that episode, I have to jump cut, because I also got telephone called. I'm not kidding. Right, in that episode of Alice Madness Returns, which, was recorded as part of this big recording session, which includes this episode of Sir that I'm recording right now, basically during that episode I got interrupted by a phone call, which was basically a scam call. The moment I picked it up I knew it was a scam call, because it was an automated voice telling me that apparently I'd won money in a competition I've not even entered, right? So, okay, that... Basically, let me give you some timings here. So, I was recording episode 7 of Alice Madness Returns at approximately just before sort of 10:30 in the morning, right, on a Saturday. Then, at, not even an hour later, it's now about 11:15 in the morning on the same day, and when I'm recording this episode, I've literally just had the exact same call, automated voice, telling me I've won a competition. Oh my goodness. Dear me, that's the problem. Thing is, my internet service provider used to be TalkTalk, which anyone who's with that knows they tend to outsource a lot of their call centres to India. But, not to say anything specifically about any specific Indian call centre workers here, but I have a horrible feeling that in those kind of call centres there's probably a lot of corruption, and a lot of phone numbers are probably sold on to criminals and, cyber scammers, things like that. I would not be surprised if that is the case. I'm not making the allegation. I'm just putting the thought out there, okay? Because that's the thing. I'm pretty sure I've heard in the past this sort of complaint about TalkTalk as a company. Fortunately, we're not. I'm not with that internet service provider anymore. But you still occasionally get phone calls from what are clearly scammers purporting to be TalkTalk employees and things like that. Oh dear. I mean, usually these kind of phone calls tend to come in sort of bouts. There'll be a period where you get maybe several of them, and then there'll be like a quiet period where for a while you won't hear anything again. But it is so bloody annoying. I mean, the thing is, as I was saying in Alice Madness Returns episode 7, where you get phone calls like that, just put the phone down. Don't say anything. Don't even get dragged into a conversation. Just put the phone down. If you ever get a phone call saying, oh, we think there's a problem with your computer, we need you to switch it on, we need you to input these login details or whatever, that's probably a scam. Put it down straight away. Put that phone down straight away. You ever get a phone call or an email or anything, asking for things like bank details, you do not do anything with that. You put the phone down, you delete the email or whatever, and if you think there might be problems, then you search yourself for your bank's contact details and you contact them directly. That's what you do. And if you ever get a phone call or an email saying you've won a competition, for goodness sake, don't be naive. Don't sign up to that. Because as I was saying in my 7th episode of Alice Madness Returns, whilst this has never personally happened to me, because, so far I've been able to see through scams a mile away, I know of plenty of people living in my local area where I live who have been taken in by scams before. Because the thing is, where I live, there are a lot of elderly folks who, maybe don't understand, the internet very well. They don't understand things like internet banking or computers or computer diagnostics of problems, things like that. And as a result, they're, quite vulnerable to pressure and scammers, because that's what they do. They try to get you flustered online. They try to get you questioning your sort of memory and whatever, and that's how they get you. Because before you know it, you end up signing up to something, and then you realise why did I sign up to that? Because you check your bank account just minutes afterwards, and it probably ends up being emptied. And that's the thing. So yes, PSA from General Red, everybody. Be on the lookout for scam phone calls, things like that. Never give out personal details online or to someone over the phone, etc., etc., unless you trust them and you know who they are. That's the thing. Okay, right. I mean, I say, don't give out unless you know who they are, but to be honest, actually, no, amend that. Don't give it out to anybody at all. So, the better advice, really, there. That's the thing, banks, if they ring you up or email you, they'll never ask for you to share or disclose personal information about your bank accounts, anything like that. They never, ever will do that. Okay. So getting away from the PSA, let's get back to what we were actually talking about before, which was, a bit of history about Korea and the Korean Navy and turtle ships. So, of course, back in the 1500s, prevailing Japanese naval tactical orthodoxy was to, move with speed, getting close to ships so they could board them. Because obviously, if there's one thing Japanese samurai were good at, it was hand-to-hand combat. So that's what their naval combat was oriented towards. But so, of course, the Koreans, seeing that, knew that in order to counter that, what they have to do is develop a naval tactical orthodoxy of their own, which depends on, powerful cannons and basically holding Japanese ships at arm's length so they can't board them. Because that's the thing. Apparently, Japanese warships of that period typically didn't have many cannons on them. But yeah. So, of course, what Yi Sun-sin developed was the turtle ship, which was armoured and had lots of guns aboard it. So basically, the Japanese couldn't board it because of the spiked plates covering the upper deck. And of course, with the sheer amount of guns it had, it could basically just pulverise any Japanese vessel. So yeah. But, as a kind of academic whose doctoral thesis was kind of on maritime security, and did encompass in one part an actual discussion of naval technology and how it, one development in one area usually precipitates a development in another one. This, isn't really surprising to me, because that is the history of naval technology pretty much. As soon as one adversary develops one kind of technology or tactical orthodoxy, usually the opposing side will develop a means of basically overcoming that, and that is warfare, pretty much. Yes. Wow. So obviously, if you wanted an actual second kind of historical example of that, one that I can remember writing about in my thesis was the submarine and the Q-ship. Of course, in the First World War, when U-boats were being used really to deadly effect for the first time, there were various kind of responses to that, and one of them was the Q-ship, which is basically a fighting ship that's disguised as a merchant vessel. So it basically is a kind of trap, almost. A U-boat commander, looking through his periscope, sees it, mistakes it for a harmless, helpless merchant vessel, goes in for the attack, only to find, the moment he starts trying to unleash torpedoes on it, the Q-ship is able to spot where the submarine is and reveals it actually has lots of weapons of its own and basically fires back on him. So yes, wow, this has been quite an episode. Interesting, isn't it? Chill out episode with me giving you a bit of a history lesson. We started out with flipping South Korean Winter Olympics taking place this year, quickly got onto Korean naval history, and now we're talking about naval warfare and the nature of technological evolution in that field. So yes, well, not just technological but tactical evolution as well, because that's obviously the way it works. One side develops the means for doing one thing, the other side responds by developing a counter. Advice to live by, everybody. But yes, well, there we are. And that pretty much actually exhausts, I think, some of my topics of conversation for today. So tell you what, since, this has been at least 10 minutes, this episode, probably more about 15, I think, let's, wrap it up here. So, this is episode 210 of So You're Being Hunted with me, General Red Strategist. This was, like I said at the start, just a kind of chill-out episode. We weren't doing a particular challenge or anything like that. I was just, felt like doing a chill-out episode, like I said, where I just, come in, have a chat. You guys can all listen to me, just rabbiting on sociably about various interesting topics. So yes, hope you enjoyed that, everybody, and hope you're obviously all enjoying the Winter Olympics, at least the events that have been on so far as of the time this video gets uploaded, whenever that may be. It probably won't be for another couple of weeks or so, I don't know, just depending on how the schedule goes over the next few days. So yes, if you're not doing so already, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links in the video description, as always. You can all go sign up to them to stay up to date with my videos as of when I upload them. Good way of doing so, of course, if you don't have a YouTube account, and therefore don't get subscription notifications. But other than that, in the meantime, this is General Red signing off, and hoping you'll join me for episode 211. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, got him. Shit. Get off the edge. Oh, no, go. Get out of here, get out, no, get a time. That's that monstrosity finished off. Get over there. See ya. Oh shit, no. Oh fuck. I did not mean to do that. Oh, please don't tell me I have to kill it again now. Shit! Got to stop it. Yeah. Oh lord. No. Holy crap. This area's horrible. Oh my god, I'm being shot to fucking pieces. Ah! Oh my, what the fuck? Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. Whoa, Jesus Christ. Holy shit. Fucking hell. Bloody hell, that did like 1,000,000 damage. This better not be a... Whoa! Shit! No! Oh my fucking god! How many... What?